right off the bat, we got our dates for cut downs, and the NFL keeps bouncing back and forth a little bit on how they want everything to go when it regards to cuts. Right now, every team has 90 players on their roster, and we got our 3 cut down dates. We did once where they cut everybody at once, but they're doing going back to the staggered approach. So August 16th, every team cuts 5. So you go from 90 to 85. August 23rd, a week later, you cut another 5, 85 to 80. And then on August 30th, that's the big cut down, 80 to 53 players per team. Now, every team's cutting 27. That's crazy. If you multiply that out, 27 times 32, I did this beforehand. I can't do this off the top of my head. 864 players will be cut on the same day. Just to put that in perspective, 262 were drafted this year. So you're talking over 3 times the amount of players drafted lose their jobs all on the same day. So it's one of my least favorite days of the year because a lot of those players, this is how their story ends. They don't ever play again after that, which is frustrating. I hate that it goes out that way, but NFL stands for not for long, right? That's the idea there. Now, let's go to the PUP, NFI, and IR rules. This is where it gets pretty crazy because they changed it dramatically last year, and they're trying to find a balance. And I think they're doing a good job because it used to be if you go on IR, you're done. Then they're like, I missed 3 games. If you went on short term IR, which that's not technically what it's called, it's just IR. But short term IR means you're coming back. And so if we look at that, this year, it's going to be 4 games minimum. Everybody that misses any time, 4 games minimum. And it's not unlimited anymore. You only get 8 guys throughout the season. So, all right, cool. Let's put that into perspective. Last year, the 49ers returned 9 players from IR. So that means 1 less than what we had last year. Now, another change is you can bring the same guy back twice, which would have helped the 49ers. If you remember, Kevin Givens started off on IR, came back, played like 3 or 4 games, got injured again. Then he was just a scratch every week. What happened was we couldn't because you couldn't put the same guy on IR twice last year. Now you can, but it counts as another spot. So you have 8 different times somebody can come off IR and play, but they have to miss 4 games minimum. They can miss more, so you can bring somebody off after 6 games, 7 games, 8 games, whatever. But you only have 8 of those. So that's going to get into some interesting decision points for the 49ers because what happens if one of your role guys gets injured and he can come off, but it's week 5 or 6, and you're just like, are you going to keep some of those spots back for just in case playoff runs, whatever else? I think I don't know. This is one of the things that I think Kyle Shanahan thinks probably more ahead than a lot of the other coaches. And so that's one of the things that's going to be interesting. But if we just look at last year, listen to these names. These are all players. And let me know if I missed somebody, but I think I got them all. These are all players that came off IR last year. Kevin Givens, Robbie Gould, Dre Greenlaw, JaMychal Hasty, Maurice Hurst, George Kittle, Trey Sermon, Manuel Mosley, Trenton Cannon. That's 9. And could have had more, right? Jimmy could have been on there, but they were doing the week-to-week thing, and he eventually came back, things like that. So you got 8 spots, and they have to miss for 4 games. And I'm sure the very first injury, and I always look forward to these emails. I feel like people use me as like their Google resource, and I'm totally cool with that. I'm not saying this in a negative way, but like I'll get like the same email like 4 or 5 times in a row. Like, oh, is he done for the year? Does he come back? Does he count as a roster spot? All those types of things. If you go on IR, you do not count as a roster spot. Okay. No other team can grab you, whatever else. You can stash that player there for the entire remainder of the year. Doesn't matter. So whenever you see somebody going on IR, they do not count as a roster spot. Now, here's where it gets different. The initial 53-man roster, okay, and we'll go over this again once we get closer to that time in September. To be able to come off IR, you have to be on the initial 53-man squad, okay? What that means, let's say you get hurt in preseason. You have to make the initial 53, even if you're tore your MCL, right? Well, whatever. It doesn't matter what the injury is. Let's say it's week 1 of the preseason, you tear your MCL, which I hope doesn't happen. If the 49ers at any point want you to qualify to come back during this season, you have to make the 53-man roster. So you would have to count as one of those 53-man roster spots. Then you could put them right on IR afterwards, free up another roster spot, bring somebody else in. We did the same things last year, the exact same thing last year with Kevin Givens. So just that initial 53-man roster. If you're not on a 53-man roster to start the year and you start on IR, you're done for the year. That's the only exception. I think that confuses people a little bit.